What's up, guys? Welcome to TFGoose Gaming. I'm TFGoose here with Vendetta. Say hey, Vendetta.
Hello.
We haven't done that in a while. You know?
I know, you're always stealing my thunder.
A little bit. I am. I'm sorry. Anyway, guys, we just wanted to put out a quick kind of strategy and tips video here for Hearthstone now that it's hit open beta. If you're looking at this way down the line and the game's already launched, I promise this stuff should still be good for you. But just always be aware that there's some card changes that are possible. But I think what we have to say is pretty universal, don't you?
I agree.
So, cool. So what we're going to do is we're going to give you kind of a few generalized tips for playing the game for you new players out there. And then a little bit later in the video, we're going to break down our top 5 basic neutral cards, the neutral minions that everybody gets right when you start the game, that you can put in any deck and that it should be solid. And then we're also going to break down our top 5 common or rare cards that you guys might want to craft right away that'll make a nice immediate impact on your win rate. So without further ado, first rule, I think that, and we see this broken all the time, especially the last couple of days,
Agreed.
which is don't open up the game by going with your direct damage spells right to the opponent's face.
Bad idea.
Bad idea. Turn 1 arcane missiles for or stuff, or using the coin and, doing like a hero power druid thing to the face or something. This is just bad idea, guys. You want to spend your direct damage spells on minions, right? I mean, that's the key.
Yeah, you want to clear the board if possible, because if you waste your coin on, say, hero power, for example, that could really come into play later when you have a more powerful minion that you could have played a turn earlier than, maybe that 1 extra damage or that 2 extra damage. Getting a strong creature on the board is a much better idea than trying to do a couple extra damage.
Right, and that's especially the case as the game is early. I mean, if you're both at 30 health, and you do a little bit of damage to the hero, 1 to 3 or something like that points of damage, the difference between 30 health and 27 or so health is nothing. It's marginal. Health is a resource in this game. It's, just something that you have at your disposal that's meant to be spent in an effort to, get the other guy's health eventually down to 0, of course. But you have some health to play with. And using early game spells, or low-cost spells, I'd say, in the early game, just to whittle down the hero's health a little bit is just not worth it. They're going to be far, far better used against, creatures and stuff. And just don't open with those. You're just telling the opponent that you just got the game and you're very happy to have it.
Yeah, yay, I just got my beta key.
My beta key, yeah.
Corn hero power. Yeah.
Oh, so bad. So anyway, that's a great tip, I think, that should help you guys out a lot. Just resist the temptation to spend all of your mana and use those spells on the hero, save them for the minions. So with that, in that same vein is kind of the second tip here we want to give at the front is to focus your efforts on making efficient trades with your opponent and trying to keep his board clear of minions. This is the way that you win Hearthstone. At least I think so.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, board advantage, meaning you have more creatures than your opponent, or they have no creatures and you have creatures, is absolutely huge. Because if you control the board, you control the game. You control the flow of the game, and it's really important, especially later to I'd say even mid-game to later, that you have control of the board.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if you're not keeping that in mind, if you're not taking control, and instead focusing your efforts again, say, on going directly to the opponent's face, you're giving him an opportunity to buff his creatures, to put something else, a bigger problem on the board that by itself you could have handled, but now since you left all those other minions out there, it's, something that's insurmountable on that next turn. You want to try to basically get rid of his stuff, and you want to do it as efficiently as possible. It's always a great thing if you have, like, say, an earlier creature, let's say like a 2-drop or something that has 3 attack and 2 health, and you use that to take down a creature that your opponent summoned that cost him 3 or 4 mana, that's usually a good idea. That's always a great thing. As is being able to use 1 card to destroy 2 or more of your opponent's cards.
See Argent Commander.
Yes, see Argent Commander. That's what's called, you're basically a 2-for-1. And we'll get to Argent Commander here a little later in the video, actually. But that's a card that, you play it, it's going to do 4 damage pretty much. It's going to be able to hit something for 4, and it's going to survive. It's just going to happen, And more often than not, that card takes 2 things out from your opponent. And that's what you want to do. You both only have 30 cards, and guess what? If you run out, you're in a lot of trouble. So being able to take more of your opponent's cards out with less of yours is always the best way to go. So focus on those efficient trades, clear up the board, use as little of your own resources as possible to take care of as many of his as possible.
Yeah, absolutely, because top decking or only pulling your top card out of each draw for the turn is a terrible idea. I mean, unless they have really low health, but honestly, even then, if they have a card advantage on you and you're trying to top deck to win, that's not always going to work for you unless you get the perfect card. I have lost many a game to where I had the opponent down to 2, 3, 4 health, and they just came back because they took control of the board with their minions and just beat my face in.
Yep, exactly. The game is not over until it's over, you know, and you will see it. I guarantee you, you're going to have games where you're even at 1 health and you come back and you beat your opponent or vice versa. And it's all about that board control. So keep that in mind. And with that, the third point we just want to point out before we get to the cards themselves is that every game has a turning point. You know, we're talking about maintaining board control. We're talking about not using your direct damage cards to go for the opponent's face. But in every single game, there will reach a point when you have to flip the switch and go full aggro on your opponent. Sometimes that doesn't happen until you absolutely have enough damage right now to kill him this turn. And of course, that's a great time to do it. You know, but even if you see it coming, like you know in not this next turn, but the turn after that, you would absolutely be able to take him out, and he has no chance of coming back from it. That's a turning point when you want to start using your cards and your creatures to get that health down and go ahead and end the game. Unfortunately, as I think Vendetta here will attest with me, we can't tell you exactly when that's going to be.
Yeah, every class is different. The type of deck you craft is different. You know, are you playing a rush deck, you know, meaning that you're just trying to beat face as fast as possible? Or are you trying to, you know, play a mid-game deck to where you're trying to get around turn 4, turn 5 until you can really start getting out your heavy hitters?
Exactly. Yeah, or even the late game version.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, for instance, like Druid is probably one of the best late game heroes right now, just because they have a lot of really high cost minions that do work, do really, really good stuff. Or if you end up, you know, opening a bunch of legendaries and you get really lucky, then you'll be wanting to play those, and those are late game as well. So your turning point is not going to be early in the game. You're not going to want to, you know, be a mage and be opening up to the face with Fireball, you know, if you don't have some stuff to follow that up with and turn the hero off really quick, you know. But then again, you get late and all of a sudden, oh, wait, you know, he's only got 18 health left and I have 2 fireballs in hand and I got these 3 creatures on the board. Okay, it's time to go, you know.
Yeah, that's a much different scenario.
Yeah, absolutely. So just be aware of that, guys. You know, kind of just be watching the game, and you'll get this. You know, when you're playing, other opponents are going to show this to you too. You know, but what makes a good player a great player, or certainly transforms a beginner into someone that can hold their own, is being able to identify that turning point in the game when it's okay to shift your focus away from the board and start going for the face. If you master that, you know, for each class, for each scenario, know your decks, know their decks, you're going to do really well. It's as simple as that. So with that, yeah, let's get into the cards, man.
I think
so.
Let's take a look-see.
So first thing we want to do, again, we're going to show you our top 5 basic neutral minions. Yay!
Yay!
Applause. These are cards that everybody has access to from day 1 of Hearthstone. So anybody watching this video, you guys have these cards. Even if you haven't downloaded the game yet, they're yours. Seriously. So our first one up, we use this a lot in our actually deck builder series. You'll see this card all over the place if you watch any of our other videos on the game, is Acidic Swamp Ooze. Great card. Yeah, love this guy.
Yeah, it's a 3/2. It destroys weapons. Considering that, you know, several of the classes have weapons: rogue, paladin, hunter, warrior. It's really just a fantastic, versatile card.
Yeah, and it passes, like, you know, what you might hear as the stats test. You know, if you look at any card and you look at the amount of mana that it costs to use that minion, to bring it out, whatever that cost is, double that, and then add up the attack and health of that minion and see if they're at least equal. If they are, then you're in good shape. If you're not quite getting, you know, the stats, though, to equal double the mana, then that card isn't quite as strong as it could be, and you need to start looking at the text on the card to see if it does something else that makes it worth that stat loss. But here we got the Acidic Swamp Ooze. you know, there's another card you actually get called Bloodfen Raptor when you first get the game. That's just a raw 3/2. 3 attack, 2 health for 2 mana, you know, which is okay. That's a good card. But why use that when you can use this, which has the same stats, but has the added benefit of being able to blow up a weapon, you know? It's a great bonus. Why not?
Yeah, agreed.
So with that, we'll move on to one that doesn't quite hit the stats test, but still is an excellent card, Shattered Sun Cleric. This guy was actually nerfed at an earlier point in the beta. It used to be a 3/3, and now it's only a 3/2. But still, I think it passes the test enough because of the buff that it has. That battle cry is excellent.
Yeah, if you count the buff, it does meet the stats test. And even before when it was a 3/3, it was like extra value, but I think they realized that, and that's why you saw the nerf.
Yeah, exactly. So it's no problem. I mean, this guy is excellent. What he does is he changes the map. You know, a lot of times when you're playing, say, you know, a 2-drop minion, and your opponent plays another 2-drop minion, well, they'll kind of cancel each other out. That's sort of what they're supposed to do, you know. But then you play this guy on turn 3, buff your first minion, and now it's able to take out your opponent's minion, but still live. And maintaining that board presence, as we said earlier, is so important. So even just that 1 extra health, or of course coupled with that 1 extra attack, can help too. But usually it's just the health that you're looking for.
Right.
That's what helps it stay around. And if you can keep minions on the board, you know, while taking out equal cost or greater minions from your opponent, you're going to win. I mean, it's just the way it's going to be. If you keep doing that, you're going to win. And this is a card that can definitely help you do that. And you need to probably be thinking about including it in most, if not all, of the decks that you're building from the very beginning of the game. You know, so absolutely one of my favorites, as is this next one.
Yeah, this next one is one of my personal favorites. It's the Chillwind Yeti. It's a 4 damage, 5 health creature. The reason this card is so powerful is because of that 5 health. 4 damage is really nice for 4 mana. But that extra 1 health, just again talking about that math, really messes with the opponents, and it makes it to where that Yeti oftentimes trades 2 for 1, which is again favorable.
Yeah, absolutely. This card is sometimes called Value Yeti, you know, because he does often take 2 cards for the opponent to deal with it, be it a creature and a spell, you know, or 2 creatures. 5 health is a lot to get rid of on turn 4, even on turn 5. You know, not every class has the ability to just wipe out this card with a single swipe. You know, you're all done. Oftentimes they got to follow it up, and it's just because of that extra health. And as simple as that. Also, if you happen to be facing a priest, it starts off with 4 attack, and that's always a bonus because priests have a couple of spells that make taking out 4 damage creatures not quite as easy, we'll say. If they have 3 or less, they got a spell to take you out. If they got 5 or more, they got another spell to take you out. But if you're sitting at 4, they just got to figure out some other way to do it.
Yeah, that's kind of the sweet spot for damage versus a priest.
It really is. Yeah, it really is. And honestly, 4 damage does a lot of work against a lot of other creatures too.
Yeah.
You know, it really does.
I agree.
You know?
I think 4 damage is a really good number.
Yeah, so this is a great card. It's not the sexiest thing in the world. It doesn't have any cool text on it or anything or do anything else special. But you get a lot of stats for not that much mana. You know, anytime where you're getting more than double stats, you know, for the mana that you're spending, it's absolutely worth keeping around. Really, really nice card, and again, worth putting in pretty much any deck, especially from the beginning. So, moving on from there is Sinjin Shield Masta. This guy, often called Tazdingo.
Tazdingo!
Yes, because that's what he says when you summon him. This guy has taunt, and normally I'm not a super big fan of taunt. You know, I used to be. But, and a lot of newer players are seduced by the power of taunt. You put this guy down, it's like, oh, you mean they have to hit that before they can do anything else? It can be very useful, it really can. But a lot of the other cards in the game that have taunt suffer from a stat reduction. This guy, you know, at 4 mana, you're still getting 3 attack and 5 health, which if you notice is 8 stats, which is exactly what you would expect on a card that costs 4 mana. So you're getting normal amount of stats, and you get taunt. And not to mention, it has that magical 5 health figure, which is also very hard to get rid of. So this is probably the best taunt minion neutral guy in the game, if you ask me, for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely pretty strong.
Yeah, I love this guy, and there's no reason that you can't put him in. You're going to get some other cards later that you're going to end up swapping him out, but he's going to serve you really, really well in the early game. You're going to be able to do good work with him. So throw some in there, protect yourself, it's okay. Having a little bit of taunt in your deck is never a bad idea. And if the only taunt that you have in your deck, period, is this guy, you're not making a mistake. That's for sure. So, and let's see. Yeah, lastly, last guy that everybody starts with, the big powerhouse.
Stormborn champion.
Stormborn champion. Why is this guy awesome?
This guy's awesome because he gives every creature on your side of the board +1/+1.
Yeah. Value.
Yeah, he's a 7-cost minion, and he's also a 6/6 himself, so he's no slouch.
Right. But that buff.
The pleasure is mine.
That buff. So good. Excellent, excellent card. Every single thing that you put out on the board is going to get +1/+1, regardless of whether it's there when you summon this guy or it comes afterwards. It's going to hit him. You know, now granted, if your opponent takes this guy out, everybody loses that buff. But he's got 6 health. He's a little tougher to get rid of than your average bear, you know? So
I agree.
Yeah, so this guy's great. He's especially great, I think, personally, in Paladin and Shaman decks. Because Paladins and Shamans, their hero power actually puts minions on the board. You know, and then this guy buffs them. So everything is immediately stronger, you know, and you're able to just summon minions without using cards that are doing 1 or 2 damage because this guy's here.
Yeah, and it really adds up.
Yes, quickly. So this guy's an excellent addition, and certainly in those 2 decks that I mentioned, you know, for those 2 heroes, and in a couple of other ones even, this guy can be a contender long after the beginning stages of the game that a lot of people are just getting into now. But this guy will be around for a while, and you'll often see him when you're facing people in play mode. There's a reason, because he's great. So that's going to round out our 5 basic neutral guys, and now let's move on to some craft, right?
Yeah, so the number 1 card we have here to craft is the Fairy Dragon. It's a 3/2. You'll find it in almost all of our decks. It can't be targeted by hero abilities or spells, and we can't stress enough how powerful that ability is. That makes it one of, well, our number 1 pick for, you know, crafted cards for the, you know, common rare.
For the common rare slot, anyway. Yeah. I mean, the reason we're focusing on these guys, a lot of people want to save their dust that they get, the arcane dust that you get, to make epics or even legendaries. But these cards here, they're going to be cheaper to craft. You're going to be able to have an immediate impact on your game, and you're going to be able to collect them quickly. I mean, there's even a hidden achievement in the game if you didn't know. If you, whenever you disenchant your very first card, whatever one you disenchant, you immediately get another 95 dust on top of whatever that card normally gives you. So that's instantly at least 100 dust, which is enough to craft a rare or 2 commons. You know, so you're going to be able to get a leg up and get some of these guys out quickly. Personally, I think a pair of Fairy Dragons, you know, is a great place to start.
Yeah, that's not a bad way to spend some dust.
Yeah, absolutely.
And moving on, we have the Harvest Golem here. He's immense value. He's a 2/3 with the Death Rattle, summon a 2/1 minion after he dies, and it is such value.
Yeah, this guy is still around in lots of the top player decks that are making it to legend rank and climbing the ladder even on there, because Harvest Golem is just so strong. You can pull him out on turn 3, and even if your opponent immediately deals with him, he comes back, you know. So almost by definition, he's a 2-for-1 card, you know, unless your opponent has a hero ability that can take care of that second incarnation. But even then, they're spending some mana to take care of that, you know. So this guy is excellent, and he belongs in a great many decks. It's barely ever a mistake, I'd say, to include him in almost any deck, because he's that strong. So great value, and honestly, he's a steal at a common. You know, I think he'd be perfectly viable at the rare quality slot, but Blizzard has given them to us as a white gem, so thank you. But moving away from the common slot, we'll get into the rares now. My personal favorite, I think, at the moment, coming up here next, is Defender of Argus. Yeah. This guy, so beast. You know, even he just got nerfed recently. He got one of his attack damage taken off. He used to be 3/3, now he's 2/3. But the battle cry is just such a game changer. I mean, it alone has won me games. This card alone has won me many games, just because it screws with the opponent.
Yeah, yeah, it's so good. It really is one of my favorite cards in this this rarity slot for sure.
Yeah, it does so much work. It forces your opponent to, you know, to focus in on 1 or 2 other minions if you've managed to get 2, you know, with the battle cry. That's absolutely the most efficient way to play it. You know, and it gives them that +1/+1 buff. Just super strong, you know, and it can really make make it a problem for your opponent. It's something, you know, gives them a pair of things that they have to deal with before they can even worry about coming after anything else. Excellent card. So, as is the next card, one we mentioned earlier in the video, Ye Olde Argent Commander.
I almost called him Argus Commander.
He could be. I would be okay with that, honestly. You know, he'd be fine.
Yeah, but he's a 4-2 charge with Divine Shield. He used to be a 4-3, but even with the nerf, he is still very strong. He's going to get that charge off, so you can trade him immediately, and then after that, he's still around, kicking.
Yeah. Again, he passes that sort of 2-for-1 test. He's going to pop in there. You're going to be able to hit something for 4 damage, period. Whatever you hit for 4 damage is not going to damage him, period. So very, very, very strong. You got a Divine Shield as a mechanic already is pretty OP. You know, it's a great mechanic.
Yeah, I love it.
You know, but the fact that this guy can pop in and he has charge immediately, so he can always do damage and always survive, just makes him a truck. You know, I absolutely love Argent Commander. He's not quite as super cool with the 2 health rather than the 3 because there's a lot of more abilities out there and stuff that can do an instant 2 damage. That 3 health was probably a little over the top, to be perfectly honest. Let's be reasonable, you know. But still, I think he's a great card to have in the 6 mana slot, and he's pretty welcome again in almost any deck. This is certainly not a bad card to craft.
Yeah.
So.
And our final top 5 pick is the Sunwalker. It's a 4/5 taunt with Divine Shield, and the reason we picked this guy is because compared to other cards of his caliber, the taunt and Divine Shield again that 5 health is so strong, and he's just a great card.
Yeah, this was kind of a rough spot for us because we did want to include the Knife Juggler, which is another fantastic card that we kind of want to give an honorable mention to. Because it's such a nice, strong card in pretty much any deck. But the thing is, there's certain decks that make that card work a lot better, you know, where you're going to summon a lot of low-cost minions. The Sunwalker, though, is pretty much welcome all the time. You know, it's a decent-sized taunt. It's got the Divine Shield, so it's going to survive unless it gets direct removed, which is rarer these days. So this is just a nice, solid card that you can build. And honestly, when I see one of these things drop one of my opponents, it kind of ticks me off. And, you know, that's not a bad thing to do to your opponent, so... With that, guys, that rounds us out, right? I think so.
Yeah, it does. Hope you guys have enjoyed this video.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for watching. Check out our other videos here. We got some stuff going. We're in the middle of a deck builder series right now to teach you guys maybe some ideas for building your own decks with the heroes as you unlock them. Otherwise, let us know what you think, and stay tuned. We got a lot more coming. Thanks.